What's up, guys? Give me 1 second while I figure out all this tactical stuff. All right, it is early here in Sydney, 6:15 a.m. There's a lot to talk about. Give me a second while I drink my coffee a bit and settle in. Go ahead and read that caption. We're going to talk about Bud Crawford. There's always something to talk about with Bud. He is the talk of the town, as they say. We're going to get into Francis Ngannou, Tyson Fury, and some news that we knew was coming, but just became official. Devin, Haney, and Regis. We'll talk about that. I want to first speak about maybe a month or so ago, the UFC. You had the UFC light heavyweight star Jamal Hill, right? This kid pretty much came out of nowhere. He was a product of Dana White's Contender Series. And he worked his way all the way up from the top in a short amount of time to become the top of the mountain, the UFC light heavyweight champion, right? He was a former basketball player, like a lot of these sort of athletes who become champions in combat sports. They come from other areas of sport. Combat sports really... You have it in boxing, but not MMA. MMA is still fairly new, 1993 it started. So we're just now starting to see that generation of talent who've started at MMA and then they stayed there. But, up until this point, because there's not a lot of years to pull from, a lot of these fighters have come from other sports. Okay, that's my point. A month ago during a charity basketball game, I think the UFC was hosting, or at least the UFC was promoting. Jamal Hill, the champion, is playing in that. And like I said, he had a background in basketball. And he tears his Achilles tendon. Okay? Do you know anything about the Achilles? You're about to see some feet. For those on... This is your Achilles from here to here, right? You tear that. That is a significant injury. Serious... We're talking about serious rehabilitation. It's surgical. You have to connect that tendon back to whichever way it tore from, either the heel or the calf. And you're pretty much immobile for at least 6 months. It's a brutal one. Kobe Bryant tore his later in his career. It's a tough one to come back from in combat sports because sometimes you rush the rehab and you want to get at it quick and then you re-injure yourself. Okay. My point is, million-dollar athletes, billion-dollar promoters, should they be playing recreational sports and putting their health on the line? Putting the belts on the line, putting their careers and legacies on the line. Especially the older you are, the harder it is to maintain the body and come back from a potential injury. And here I get to my point in Terrence Crawford. It seems like every weekend we see this guy being active, being an athlete, being an alpha. You can't take a ball out of his hands. He was recently shown on his social medias in playing a flag football game, throwing a 50-yard dart touchdown, playing quarterback, being the best player on the field. Now, who knows what his competition was like? That's not the point of this. He didn't get hurt. But if you were Terrence Crawford, if you were his confidant, would you be against that? Of course, hindsight's always 20/20. The protagonist-antagonist approach. He didn't get hurt. He's active. You'd want him to be appearing and be seen. But then also the other side is you're running the risk of injury. He'll be 36 soon. Is playing a flag football game worth it in regards to an injury, your career? He only has a handful of fights left. Let's be real. Even if he wanted to fight longer, he's 30. He'll be 36. He's not a heavyweight. And we always talk about it's the heavyweights who get to hang out a little bit longer. So I'll leave it up to you. With all of this, you've seen Bud playing basketball, the football game. If you were him, would you be doing it? Do you think that he's running a risk of shortening his career? Is it a risk that you would take? Just let me know. Switching gears, also, he's finally on holiday. He posted recently yesterday that he's in Belize. It's a Central American country. It looks beautiful. This is the first time I can remember him taking a holiday in recent memory. And if there's anybody who deserves a holiday, it's this guy. Because like I said, he's always doing something. And if you go to his Instagram right now, Terrence Crawford's making chocolate. Looks pretty fun. What'd you guys think of Francis Ngannou on Joe Rogan? Did you guys watch it? We did a video on the channel yesterday. I'm going to play it for you. I keep wrestling with the perspective and the mindset of Francis for him to go on the world's most popular podcast and say what he said. And I'm not trying to come off judgmental here with his comments, and I'll play them for you. But if we take his comments as him being serious, then we have to think that Francis is very naive and, more importantly, puts himself around yes men. Because if Francis is serious with these comments, that means that he believes that Tyson Fury cheats in his fights. He didn't mention steroids. He didn't mention performance-enhancing drugs. He's talking about a wardrobe malfunction. He's talking about Francis's gloves. He says that, and this isn't new. These aren't new accusations. This is why, if Francis isn't trolling, you'd have to think that there's nobody in his circle of influence that is holding him accountable. Because these are allegations that Deontay Wilder came up with. These are allegations that Deontay Wilder's fans, fanboys, because I'm a fan of Wilder, but he got his ass kicked. Fanboys came up with in saying that Fury was punching with his bare hand and his gloves don't cover the whole hand, and when he punches, they slide off. But when you see the videos and you watch the fight, Fury has he pokes at you, he prods. He has a real loose style. He wants you to he wants to show you a lot of stuff, and then he'll sit down on certain shots. And so in slow motion, you can kind of see his hand extended and then squeezing. But in no means is that glove showing bare hand. And in no means is he doing any fuckery in terms of trying to fight his opponents without protection. And good on Joe Rogan for calling Francis out. Now, I'll play you that. Give me 1 second. I need a producer. But I'm a one-man show, and I don't mind it. Okay.
And we are going to talk about this Tyson gloves. He's very tricky with his glove. I think he's cheating. Yeah, I have heard a lot of complaint about his gloves, which is like his glove has no protection.
Where have you heard this from?
Even when he fought Deontay Wilder, he complained about that.
Yeah, but did you ever look into that,
Direct Tisora complained about that, and that's what we are talking about the team. And then I'm like, oh, there's the UK Commission, the gloves. I'm like, bro, we're gonna get there. We need every glove to be checked. You don't tell me about this commission. All the gloves get to be checked. I don't want. If you want us to fight bare hands, bare knickers, let's go bare knickers. But don't give me a 10-ounce glove and wear a 8-ounce or 6-ounce glove because he has no protection. No.
You really think he's doing that?
I think so. I mean, I have heard.
Yeah, I've seen the Deontay Wilder videos, but they're not convincing. Here's why. They're showing those videos in slow motion. Yeah. And in slow motion, it looks like his glove is flopping all over the place.
Yeah.
But that's just because it's in slow motion. When you watch him boxing, he's doing this. You know, he flicks. He shows you it. Pop! then he drops a big punch in.
But
So in slow motion, it looks like it's all floppy, like it's not connected, and you think that the gloves are really like just flopping around, and where his knuckles are is where the wrap is. But that's not the case, because if you look at the length of his arm,
yeah,
none of that makes sense.
but his opponent complains about his glove.
Yeah, I don't know if they're right.
I mean, there might not be.
I don't know
at
if
least
they're right. I
we have to check that.
Yeah, well,
we have
I'm
to check
sure.
that.
I think it's legit. I think he's legit. I just think he's that good.
No, he's good. He's good.
And his style of like
Yeah.
keeping that hand loose and flicking. So sometimes that wrist opens way up, and if you look at it in slow motion, people are like, look, his glove's not even attached. His glove's attached. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, because after he does this, he does this. There's no way he's doing this if his glove's not attached. It's attached. He just loosens his hands, because he a lot of his punches, he's just showing you things. He's showing you things. Bang! He's showing you this, and then he's doing all this. So a lot of it is loose, and he's just popping you with that, like a whip. You know?
Well, I think we have nothing to lose by double check.
Nothing to lose by double check.
Yeah,
That's
because it's been more than once that people talk about his gloves.
Right, but nobody
and even his
beats him.
opponent. Even his opponent.
Yeah, I'm sure they talk about it.
Yeah,
He kicks their ass. People looking for reasons. Like, Deontay Wilder thought he got poisoned. You know, right? He thought a lot of things. But, you know, that's because the guy's that good. He's fucking good, man, you know? And I just think that style, when you look at it in slow motion, it might look like his gloves are not attached, but they are most certainly attached.
But in the boxing world, you have to worry about
dirty
everything.
world. You're right.
It's a dirty world.
That's a
you
dirty
have to
world.
worry about everything.
Yeah. That's
I mean, if somebody says something in the boxing, you better just double check.
Double check.
Okay. So, like I said, good on Rogan for not appeasing Francis, but it seems to me, though, to have that, to blatantly accuse Tyson of nothing new, of things that we've already heard about, it almost sounds like, I mean, is he trolling? Because this is what's weird, because the only thing that makes sense to me is that he's trolling, because he's trying to get under Tyson's skin, because he knows that that'll get back to Fury. But if he's not trolling, it's kind of a bizarre thing to say a couple weeks out leading up to the biggest showcase of your career. You know, he's getting more. He said that he's getting more money than he's ever had. He's getting an opportunity to fight the heavyweight champ in a sport that he's never fought, and he's getting cornered by Mike Tyson. So that seems pretty crazy to me that he would do that. I want to talk about Devin Haney and Regis Prograis. So that fight is something that there's a lot of speculation over the last few weeks, and it finally was announced. And here's some of the facts. It's happening December 9th in San Francisco, California. DAZN, Matchroom. I'll read you a bit of it. And it is now official. Devin Haney will be moving up to 140 pounds to challenge Regis for his WBC light welterweight title on December 9th, DAZN pay-per-view. And the minute Bill Haney and Devin posted this on their social medias, you got Devin takes a lot of shit. He takes a lot of hate for people, but partially due to some of the things that Team Haney comes out with. Haney released a statement that said, "There's nobody else in boxing that is challenging themselves like myself." At only 24 years old, within the last calendar year, he's going to now be fighting Lomachenko and Regis Prograis, two of the best opponents that he could possibly face. And he said nobody else in the sport is doing that. And you got to agree with him. I mean, this man's resume, he's only 24 years old. And I like doing the eye test. I was in our Facebook group and this guy was hating on Devin. So I asked him how old he was. And then I asked him what he does for a living. And then I asked him, when you were 24, what were you doing? Because I can't stand a hater. The more you get to know me, guys, the more you understand. Is like, don't come at me. I'm not going to ever pile on with hating on fighters or hating on anybody, because that gets nothing done on my end. I want to progress in life. I want to be productive. I want to be positive. And one of my favorite quotes about haters, I'll never forget, 100% of all haters are unrealized potential. You cannot like somebody, but if you're going to talk trash about somebody, I want you to give me evidence and facts. Maybe you don't like the kid's style. Maybe you disagree with the way the kid handled a fight. Maybe you don't like what he does outside of the ring. But to just hate on somebody because you're regurgitating a narrative that's a common narrative from sort of a thought bubble or maybe a echo chamber you belong to on social media, don't come at me with that, because that tells me more about you than it says about the person you're hating on. Oh, yeah, that quote stuck with me, guys, because I used to be a hater. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm in my early 40s now, but in my 20s, when I was coming up as an athlete and in a really competitive sort of space in America, think about how many people are in America. Think about if you're in a big city, maybe you're playing a sport, maybe you're trying to get a job. It's competitive. And I didn't really have the guidance or the mentorship to lead me down the right conscious way of thinking. Like, hey, Johnny, just keep working. Don't hate. I used to think, well, if somebody has more than me, they either cheated, they either got lucky, or somebody either helped them out. So I would just go straight hater hat and hate on them. But that's not the reality. If somebody was doing better than me, the reality is 99% of the time, they were either doing it, they were in it longer than me, or they worked their ass off for, because guys, I got to be honest with you, in life, when it comes to success, being fluky and being lucky, it's a very rare thing. People work their ass off. We only see the outcomes, though. We only get to see where the person is at that moment. We never get to see the work. So if you have a susceptibility to be a hater, your mind will go straight to what I just said, to, oh, they got lucky or they didn't work for it. I want to talk about Devin Haney. Like, Devin Haney's resume. He's 24 years old. We could pick apart the resume. Vasily Lomachenko, George Kambosos twice, Joseph Diaz Jr., Jorge Linares, Yuriorkis Gamboa, and then, a lot of the names we're not gonna know. But you look at from the Abdulayev fight, September of 2019, which was only 4 years ago. He's fought Abdulayev, Santiago, Gamboa, Linares, Diaz Jr., Kambosos twice, and Lomachenko. He's only 24. Guys, give him a break. And you got to sell me on why you don't like him. If you're only going to say you don't like him because of his style, then tell me you don't like his style. Then you're not a fan of him. But if you're going to say that he's overrated, that he's a bum, that he only fights cans, blah, 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 then I'm going to just call you a hater. Because at 24 years old, this kid is doing great things. And I look at him as a 24-year-old boy, man, doing great things on a positive level of life. You got to look at these athletes as more than just the athlete. Look at them as a human being who are putting themselves in situations to do good things. And that's how I look at boxing. That's how I look at athletes. That's how I look at life. It allows me not to, like I said earlier, be a hater. Guys, I appreciate you. I need you guys to start liking these videos if you like what you hear. Thanks for the support, and stay tuned. I'll be back.